Ride Property Community. I'm just going to see, are we live?
Yes.
Are we live? Right, first and foremost, I've got a bit of an echo on my sound. I don't know what that is. You got any other things on? No. Right, we'll go with it. So we have the man, the myth, the legend, that is Paul Million on our Tuesday Wave show this evening. We're super humbled, super proud to have Paul on. This has been a long time coming, trying to get Paul onto this show that we've got now. Probably one of the busiest guys that we know. As I mentioned on the narrative earlier on, he is spinning about a zillion plates, all doused with fire and spikes. So yeah, we're really happy that he's managed to find some time within his very busy schedule to come in and join us this evening. One of Property's gents, one of Property's true grafters, and yeah, like I said, we're really happy to have you on the show tonight, Paul, to share some of your wisdom, some of your experience and knowledge with our viewers.
Thank you very much. That was a fantastic intro. Cheers for that. Can I just say, I used to have an architect who lost these two fingers in a motorbike accident. So every time I see you guys doing that, I used to go on site and point with his little finger about and we used to call him, what's that?
We're going to be talking about a lot tonight, and we're going to be talking about all your new ventures that you've got going on at the minute, your new business that you've got going on. I just wanted to mention that you are actually the co-host of the Property Ting, which you co-host with Anthony Boyce. So we've seen a lot of your stuff on there, as well as everything else that you do. We know you've got a new exciting business that you're about to launch, so we're going to move on to that as well. But I'm going to pass it over quickly to Steph, and then we'll kick things off.
Also, so let's kick things off in the traditional way for us. So please tell us your name, where you come from, and in one sentence, what do you do in property?
I'm Paul Million from Darlington, and I am a landlord. HMOs, single lets, service departments, and some light industrial stuff.
Okie doke. So quite a few things in there, Paul. So I think we will kick off and just go straight in there and dig deeper into the property side. So you mentioned landlord of a few different things there. So just tell us exactly what you specialise in.
God, I'm a bit of a jack of all trades, really. So I mean, I spent a lot of time on the tools in my time. When I was working full time, I'd be nights and weekends on the tools. So I've had 25 years on the tools, and I've just come off the tools about 3 or 4 years ago. So I'm pretty good on the refurb side. So my speciality is knowing how buildings are how they come apart and how they go back together again. And yeah, just kind of keeping on, really. All that will be revealed, I'm sure, in due course when we get down the nitty-gritty.
Paul, you passed the first test. You did the sentence, so that was good. We didn't go off on a million and one different tangents, which we're really happy about. Because if anyone has watched Paul, he can spin a dit, and he has a lot of valuable information to share. And yeah, we're gonna try and keep that as on track as we possibly can. So yeah, over to you, Steph.
Yeah. So thinking about what you do right now, Paul. So how exactly did you get into that? Talk us through that a bit.
Cool. I'm literally sitting on my verbal hand, so I don't go off and I will say to you a few times through the interview, what was the question again? So what actually was the question again? How did I get into that? As you ladies were, Her Majesty's Royal Navy, and when did I join? 1990. And when I got my first proper pay packet after about 2 years, there was about 300 quid came off, and I thought, what's all that about? And that was called taxation. And I thought, I didn't write that wrong. And my mum was an estate agent at the time, which sounds absolutely brilliant, but didn't get a right lot of good deals off my mum. She was like, oh, I can't be seen to do all that. So I soon got to be friends with her colleagues and got some good deals off them. So yeah, she encouraged me to get on into my first property. Because I was on HMS Sultan at the time down in Gosport, I didn't need to live in the property, so I just rented it out. And when I got promoted to leader, I got another, and then got my POs up and kind of got another, and after about 7 years I took redundancy, and then I got another with the redundancy pay. So that's what set me off in my journey.
So that's interesting, because how old were you when you joined the Navy, Paul?
19.
19. So, you know, within 7 years, you had three properties under your belt?
Yeah, 4 properties just as I was leaving. They very kindly, as a young petty officer, paid me 17,000 quid to leave, which was redundant due to options for change. You know, I was putting in drafting preferences to go, just send me wherever, single guy, you know, send me around the world, and options for change, you know, defence cuts, put paid to that. And I thought, you know what, actually being a marine engineer really isn't my thing. Sitting up in the middle of the night watching dials. I picked the wrong strategy there. I should have gone air or weapons, shouldn't I? And stayed in my pit half the time, but there you go.
Yeah, there is that. So, I mean, that's interesting though, because the first kind of 7 years that, you know, you were in property, all your oppos in the Navy, they probably weren't doing property, were they? Or were they? Were you hanging around with a group of people who were kind of into investing, or were you kind of the only one doing that?
I was pretty much the only one. I remember standing on the quarterdeck with a lad who his father had sadly passed away, and I was like, mate, get it into property. And after a while he was like, will you shut up about property? I was like, but I did used to kind of say, look, I because I'm not the sharpest tool in the bag, I used to have to really and I wasn't trying to borrow the money off him, by the way. I'd have known what I know. If I'd known then what I know now, I probably would have. But no, so because I'm not the sharpest tool in the bag, I had to really revise for each one of my exams coming up. So even when I went down to the Gulf and what have you, I'd be generally would pull up at, you know, Bahrain or wherever, and you know, just be revising for my next exam. So I didn't really spend a lot of money ashore, whereas such a lot of people, I just saw them completely tossing all the money up. That, you know, everyone lived from pay packet to pay packet.
Yeah.
And I, you know, I mean, I have got a spending gene in my body. You know, my mum and my nana like the trinkets and stuff like that, and I get a bit of a spending gene off them, but I do fling it down the huge hole that they call property. You know, so I am a spendaholic, but on bricks and mortar, so that's a pretty good thing. I think it comes back to you after a while.
Awesome.
Talk about main strategy.
Yeah, go on then.
Yeah, so I mean, you mentioned before that you know there's probably not anything that you haven't ever turned your hand to within property, but what would you say your main strategy is right now, and why, I guess?
My main strategy is developing from HMO into HMO on steroids co-living, and that's what my new company's all about. Oh, we've got a little picture there actually of Verve. So we haven't actually launched Verve or the brand or anything like that yet, but I can't help but go off a little bit about it. And yeah, so I always say my biggest, you know, people have been growing. By the way, who have we got on? I can't see. Normally I can see like a list we've got on.
We can't see who's. Oh well, I can see who's dropped a comment. So Claire McNeil is in the house. We've got Mark Leck that's in the house.
Hello.
And actually, it's probably a good opportunity to say to anybody that is watching at the minute. I dropped a comment in the comments with a little link, and you can just press that link, and it'll allow StreamYard to show your name and your picture. So like Claire's done there, we can see Claire's online. However, there's somebody that's given us a wave, give us a hello, but we don't know who it is at this point. So yeah, if you want your name and their photo to be shared, then just click on that link in the comments. It literally takes 2 seconds. You only have to do it once.
Have we got the grand total of 3 people on then? Can you?
So we've got. There's 13 people on at the minute.
13 people. Oh,
we've got 13 online right now.
Listen to us gobbing off. What was the question?
So we were talking about your new business venture. You showed us the picture, which we can't quite see.
Yeah.
From where we sitting.
Get it on.
So that's V. Oh no, I'm all reversed. V. U V, and you can only see half the V's because my graphic designer played around with it. Nice. So that's Verve. I was going to call it Verve as in VERVE, but we decided to go with a different spelling in the end because it looked pretty good.
Is that like champagne?
Verve. No, Verve's like a joie de vivre or something like that, isn't it? Like you know, a bit of you know, punchiness, a bit of. Well, do you remember the band The Verve?
Yeah.
You're young.
Unfortunately.
I've got Andy on. Next, Matlow.
Yeah, Matlow's are in the house.
Yeah, so my strategy going forward is to get into co-living. You know, I've done, so I always say, you know, people will, you know, what about groany kind of comments that I always say is in every adversity lies the seed of a greater benefit. And about in 2005, I can tell you the progression of my portfolio if you like later on, but in 2005, 2006, I got asked to buy a big house for a care provider because I just started doing some supported tenancies at the time, and I got asked to buy a bigger house by a care provider. And I ended up buying the house next door as well, 2 big sort of 6-bedders that took a hell of a lot of refurb and, moved the people in. And I realised that the people that were going to be moving in weren't going to be, royal family or anything. Well, actually, yeah, they were the royal family. No, but the royal family, ROYAL. And I knew that there were going to be people that had, had a bit of a downer, but they were 24-hour staffed. But what staff didn't stop the people doing was kind of wrecking the insides of my houses a little bit. And I put a lot of time and effort and my heart and soul into these refurbs, especially when you're on the tools yourself. And the maintenance guy's car was outside all the time. And I was like, why is that his van was outside all the time? And I befriended that guy, and he's like, oh yeah, they punch doors and kick the spindles out. And I was like, well, make sure that the proper spindles go back in. Oh no, we just get replacements from Howdens. It's like, no, I'm not having that. So, me being me, after a while, I just kind of, we went our separate ways, and then I was left with these 2 great big bloody houses, and so that kind of got me into HMO because the care provider actually went they lost the care contract and asked me if I would take the 6 best people from their whole 40-odd room portfolio of people. And I kind of agreed to that because I was struggling to rent the houses out as single lets. And then I thought, oh, actually, this lot aren't too bad. I gave them the old iron fist in a velvet glove type treatment of, look, I'm now your landlord. These are my houses. I won't tolerate the kind of stuff that some of your other compadres have got up to in the past. And then I rented them as kind of blue collar sort of professional house shares for a while. And I thought, oh, that's quite good. I was getting twice as much rent. I was having to pay the bills, and I quite liked that. Then I went into build industrial units and all sorts of stuff, and I didn't get into HMOs in a much bigger way until about 5 years ago. And then, just lately, I just think it's a natural progression. I've got kind of 20 HMOs now, and that's quite a lot of, 4, 5, and 6, 7-bed HMOs, and I just wanted to go on to, do the steroids a little bit and get on to some 17, 18-bedders. So I've got a couple of 8 beds to do, a couple of 17 beds to do, and a 12-bed.
Just a couple of 17 beds, nothing major.
It lives with me in my brain so much that I just say it quite flippantly, don't I? But underneath, I'm doing that, the old duck along water.
Paul, I've got a question, and I'm sure there'll be some people watching as well that might have the same question. What is the difference between co-living and like your traditional HMO? Is it just purely it's on steroids and it's the creme de la creme?
Is it just a posh HMO is what we're asking, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, the guys that are really into the co-living will say, oh, no, it's an absolute different strategy. And I suppose for me, my epicenter for verve is Darlington. And so I've got to be realistic that, and I went down to London researching co-living and co-working because I was looking at the 2 different strategies. But actually now with COVID, the 2 are merging in a little bit, where a true co-living development would have some co-working in there as well. So you get your purely co-working environments like the WeWorks and the Uncommons of the world, who have people that can go in and hot desk, and it's purely a commercial environment. And then you've got your pure co-living, which is, for example, the co-living development that I went to see in London was the Collective in Canary Wharf, and there was 705 people living in there.
Really?
It's just like a huge kind of co-living hotel, if you like, with swimming pools. And it's just, I guess the key thing about co-living is that the facilities are bigger and better and wider and brighter, big communal areas. The thing is I don't think go any more than about maybe 30 bed eventually. Now, someone from The Guardian did an undercover investigation where a reporter went to live in a co-living development, which was actually, funnily enough, the Collective. And she said, on paper, it looks brilliant. The rooms are really nice. I went in to have a look at the rooms. The lad, Johnny Palmer, that I was with, that kindly took me around London and to all the sites, he pretended he was my Cockney nephew. And, I was his uncle who was a guarantor, and my daughter was with us, Rosie, and we had a good old sprint around the place and took a few phots and, just had a look down the back of its trousers, really, and thought, there's nothing particularly hard about this. But yeah, the facilities in that place were absolutely crazy. You know, cafes, swimming pools, bars, restaurants, all that kind of stuff. But an undercover reporter went in there and said, actually, it was a bit of a nightmare. You know, it was like there was kind of loads of hooray Henrys and, you know, tops and people trying to take over the job and little ghettos or little.
Like an 18 to 30.
Yeah, people getting trolleyed in the communal areas on a night and getting rary and
where are these places?
We charge £1,500 a week, £1,500 a month per room, but I guess everyone on there's, you know, down there's on 100k a year plus, you know, right in the banking sector. Yeah. So you know what they say, bankers are wankers. So my modus operandi was kind of keep a little bit smaller and you know, have like more of a community. Now, one thing I didn't really want to do is kind of chuck in a lot of co-living developments, you know, have like inter-house you know, meetups and networking and all this kind of stuff. But like being up north and from Darlow, I don't know whether, you know, the tenants would take particularly well to, you know, me forcing networking events upon them or anything like that. I think just leave them to their own devices. And it's all a learning process for me. It's like, you know, my business plan has a lot of blanks in it, but like anything that I ever do, it's like, yeah, there's blanks there, but let's like move forward with conviction and fill in the blanks as we go.
Mm. And have any of these projects come to fruition yet? Are you putting tenants in, or are you still in the kind of development phase?
Well, yeah, no, I've had a bit of chew on 3 projects with one architect where he's not delivering what I wanted, and I've ended up having a bit of a fallout with them because I spend a lot of time, you know, back and forward with drawings and the stuff that I like and the pictures that I've taken and how I want things, and what was produced for me was actually just like, well, you know, you're not the people that you said you were. Anthony Boyce, who is fantastic, has got me a couple of HMOs out of planning now, which are ready to rumble. So we're just starting this week a property that I had in Hartlepool that a care provider asked me to buy about 9 years ago, and we got about 7 years of really good rents, because that was a tenancy where there was 6 very drunk people living in there, but under care. You know, people trying to get off the booze. And that came up, and I thought, you know, rather than, you know, to buy a house for 150 grand and then to sell it for 150 grand 7 years later, that's kind of not the way I go. I think, you know, I could probably get 30 grand a year out of that as an 8-bed HMO. So, I mean, they didn't have Christmas in Hartlepool because they wouldn't let Jesus, they didn't do the Jesus thing in Hartlepool because they couldn't find 3 wise men and a virgin, so to say. But no, it's a bit rough. No, I like Hartlepool, actually. There's some beautiful buildings up there, some cracking people that I've met.
I've got family up there.
Is it? Have you? Monkey hours. You know, so I was a bit worried about it being rough, but, you know, this is in quite a nice part of it. It's in a conservation area. We got it through from a 6-bed house to 8-bed HMO in an Article 4 area, thanks to Volty and the vehemence of my planning consultant up there, Claire Haddon. Yeah, and we got that through. So that's to start literally this week. I've got the first site meeting on Thursday, so that's an exciting one. But what I've done over the last sort of 5 years is go back into my portfolio and turn all of the ripe ones that could have made good HMOs into HMOs. And as they came up, for a reason. Mind you, that's out the frying pan into the frigging fire. Yeah, so yeah, I've just spent the last few years like in my own portfolio, pulling out HMO-sized properties and turning them into that. So that's how I've ended up with quite a few. I've only bought maybe a couple over the last few years. I've mainly turned my own single lets into HMO because they're already nice houses. So I was just able to go in and put in some of them, literally the 4 beds, just like literally put hardwired smokes in, put fire doors on, give it a tickle up, fill them full of furniture, and you've got a beautiful little HMO. So it really works for me. You know, I get a lot of people saying to me, well, HMO doesn't work in, say, for example, Billingham. You know, I had a friend, Davey Lamb, saying, you know, will HMO work in Billingham? Yeah, well, you know, bring it up. This is the amount of people that are looking for property in Billingham, HMO styling, and this is on spare room, and these are the other landlords that are currently doing it, and your house will be better than theirs. So crack on, so. And yeah, it can work almost anywhere. You know, people have this thing about, oh, it won't work in my town. I mean, I've just finished one. The one that's just rolled out the sausage machine this week was one in Redcar, and that was full as a gun before we finished it, of course, and as they always are generally, because there is demand there. But you've got it, like Julian Marie says, you've got to be top end of your game. You've got to put the extra effort in and get them cock-a-doodle. I mean, I've seen some of the ones that you've done, and because they're rent to renters, obviously you don't want to go banzai on the spends, do you? You've got to. I hope you don't mind me saying, kind of an expression that I use on some stuff that I've done in the past is you feel like you're polishing the turd a bit. But if it was your property, you'd have all the wood chip off the walls, all back to, you'd get them all done up, spend some money. The great thing about spending a load of money on property and the refurbs is that you don't have to go back to them so much, from 2000 and what was it, about 2003 to 2006, I bought something like between 10 and 12 properties a year for 3 years running. And I ended up with tons of half-baked property because as the prices were going up, I was remortgaging and pulling out these properties and just buying more and more and more. And I ended up with a few half-baked, what I call half-baked properties. I like to buy houses that you wouldn't let a chicken live in, chuck a few grenades in, and 15, 20 grand later, you've got yourself something that you haven't got to pretty much touch for the next, maybe 20 years apart from, your daft little, bits and bats maintenance, that kind of thing.
And Paul, with your you've got a lot of years of experience of property investing and obviously HMO or co-living, developing co-living, buildings, properties, places to live now is your main strategy. But would you say, if you had your time again, would you have gone into the HMO game a little bit quicker, or do you really value the fact that you had that kind of baseline foundation of the single lets and all that experience that you were then able to, progress it on, so to speak, from there? Or
that is a great question, and depending on what day it is, the answer is different. There's a few bits and bats that I wish I'd done differently over the years, but my single lets. I did a post that people can search called "Buy to Let or Not to Buy to Let" on the various communities, but about a year ago or so, and it was kind of doing the humble buy to let down because I tell people not to bother. I mean, it's great, you guys, you've jumped straight into HMOs. I mean, you've obviously done the sums on the single lets and jumped straight into the HMO side of things. You don't have any single lets, do you?
Yeah, we've got three single lets.
Oh, okay, sorry, I thought you were. But have you done 8 rent to rent HMOs since your 3 buy to lets?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, going back on your point before, it is a very, very different strategy, and that point that you made, where you can't really spend lots of money, and sometimes you feel like you've got a property that is half baked. We struggle with that, and that's a very good point that you brought up, because in an ideal world for us, we would love to have 8 HMOs that are ours that you can invest into, and that they're your properties, and you can do them how you want to do them. But there's so many things in a lot of the rent to rents that we've got now that they drive me mental. But you just you've got to just balance that out, and it'd be very easy to go in and just basically just you're just going to be setting fire to money really at the end of the day, because you're going to be giving the properties back. So you've got to get that balance of providing the best quality homes that you can for people, but at the same time, you've got to keep the margins there, and especially in the times that we're in now and the uncertainty that we're in, it's not a squeaky bum time, but we've got to be sensible. And so just going back to your point, that is a very, very fair point, and we're really looking forward to the HMO that we buy and we develop, or we convert, or however we do it, and it being ours. So that's I'm jealous of that.
Yeah, definitely. And what you've done though is you've built yourself a fantastic foundation and a fantastic launch pad and a fantastic track record as well at the same time. I mean, that's pure vehemence, that, isn't it? That is you've rinsed and repeated on a modus operandi there, haven't you? And cracked on with it, and that's absolutely brilliant. Hats off to you. But by the way, thanks to you guys. The first message on my maintenance chat this morning off the lads was the man, the myth, the bell end. What we do They said actually 3 of those people watching are probably my lads on site, and they're just going to be taking notes and calling me out on my bullshit in the morning. So yeah, what was the question again? Would you get my single? I love my singlets because when I look in my bank account, on a Monday or on the first of the month, it's like it provides so I basically liken it to having bought a lot of chickens over the years, or a lot of gooses rather. Have you heard of the story of the golden goose, where this farmer has a goose and it lays golden eggs, and after a while he gets a bit greedy and he thinks, do you know what, if that goose is laying golden eggs, I bet it's gold inside. I'm going to chop the bugger open and weigh it in. And he chopped the bugger open, and it wasn't gold inside, it was just a normal goose, but he'd slayed it by then. So I don't sell property really. I've only ever sold kind of 5 industrial units in my time after I built an industrial estate. Sold 2, but I sold 3 older ones, and I've only ever sold 3 or 4 properties in my time. And that's because I feel like when you put your heart and soul into stuff, that you don't really want to let it go for the sake of 20 grand uplift. Or 30 grand. I'd rather take 4 or 5 grand out a year out of that, especially now while the interest rates are low. I've got one HMO that pulls in about 2 grand a month, and the mortgage is like 50 quid, and that is an actual HMO mortgage, but it was just at a certain rate where it came down, and that's just phenomenal to me. Why would I ever sell that property? But same with my single lets really. It's like so I always say, look, in property you've got 3 types of money. And the people that have watched all this stuff are probably going, oh, God, he's talking about the same old stuff. But it's relevant.
And it's not the people that haven't watched it.
Yeah.
Say again, kid?
And there'll be loads of people that haven't watched it, so definitely.
Yeah, reruns and that. Who is this baldy fellow with all the gaffs? So there's hard money, easy money, free money. Hard money is getting yourself into properties, getting them provisioned, fighting about with all the tradesmen and the gumption required to get to the end of a project. And once you get the thing finished and you get that rent rolling in, it's not massive, but compared to what you've just spent on the property. But after a while, it just feels like free money because it just keeps rolling in and rolling in and rolling in. And then that gets spent again so you can increase your free money in the future. So I've basically spent my time buying these geese, if you like, these golden geese, just to get a little nest egg over the years. But the absolute Valhalla is the free money, and that's the capital uplift. Okay, and we haven't had any of that since 2007. And mind you Southerners have a bit, haven't you? But we haven't.
I think London might have.
But I'd quite like it. I quite like it the way that it is, with really low interest rates. And the ability to use my cash flow to refurb rather than, obviously from 2000 and, my whole career, I just borrowed more money. I used to sit at the Darlington landlords meetings with 3 or 4 properties next to old gits, now like me, with 60 odd properties, and think, I want 60 properties, mother chopper. And the only way I can do that is to buy them. And the only way I saw that I could buy them was to buy them like you wouldn't let a chicken live in them. And smash them to pieces and put them back together again. Make it so the surveyor, can't find fault with the property. I did one property once, my second big HMO. It was absolutely ruined. It was like 80 grand, and I spent about 6 months of my own time on the thing. I'm a proper glutton for punishment. We pulled the thing to pieces and put it back together. And the surveyor walked in, and he walked out again, and he walked in again, and he walked out again, and he was checking his clipboard and checking the number, and he went, is this the same house I was at 6 months ago? And I was like, oh, that was great. That felt absolutely fantastic. And he was like, in 17 years of doing surveying, I've never seen such a thorough job. And that really gave me a buzz. But it's a case of adding that value. And I always used to like to add as much value as possible, because then I could pull more brass out to then buy more golden geese, So that's been my thing over the years. And what I failed to realise, and what I failed to, so I spent 27 years head down, arse up, building a portfolio, when really what I should have done is maybe gone back a bit earlier and thought about investor finance and scaling up a bit. People would look at my portfolio and go, well, that's pretty scaled, but actually I could have done a lot more a lot sooner and maybe retired. I'm not going to be able to knock it on the head for a good few years, because I've got JVs with people that I owe that to, and investors, and I want to scale the company, because and having Claire in's been absolutely fantastic, because she's helped me sort of see the light as far as being able to scale up. We've got something called Project CEO, where I actually become the CEO of my existing company, if you like, so that I can do the stuff that I really enjoy, like networking with other people, speaking to investors, looking at how to scale up and actually creating a business. I've never felt really that I've had an efficient business. I've always been the thing that's, when something's gone wrong, I've been there. Everything falls back on me. You know, they're saying the mob shit rolls downhill. Well, shit rolls downhill and uphill, it would appear. And, I end up, if someone doesn't turn out, or someone can't get in the service department in the middle of the night, it's, to yours truly, my phone never turns off. I say to people, did you actually message me at 2 o'clock in the morning? They're like, well, yeah, is your phone not off? I'm like, no, my phone's never off. So, yeah, we're working on that, the diversification and delegation and systemizing. It's been absolutely great.
Well, on systemizing, and it's something we're definitely trying to focus on in our HMO businesses. There's definitely a difference between managing a HMO and managing a single let, and I'm sure you can appreciate that difference. Do you manage your own HMOs, or do you have people that do that for you? Do you outsource that? And if you've got as many HMOs, how do you kind of separate yourself from the management of those HMOs?
Well, up until about 3 months ago, I was actually recruiting all of my own tenants. So over the years of being on the tools, working from daft o'clock in the morning till daft o'clock at night, and even when I was working with my dad in that business, I was like, evenings and weekends were all about the property, but I was also doing my tenancy stuff as well. So we run all our own stuff. I'd rather have a I wish people had put the names on so I could see.
That's got to be Paul Davidson, I reckon. Big bicep. Come on, I reckon that's Paul Davidson. Even though we can't see your name, Paul, if it's you. If you're not going to click the link because you think that Big Brother's watching, stick your name at the end of the comment so we can see it.
Last week when I was listening to Claire, I couldn't see that link actually of where to.
So I've stuck it in the comment. So if people are on the video now and you go back up to the very first comment, I'll put it in there as well. But I think some people don't want to click it because they think Big Brother's watching, which I understand.
What was the question again?
Yeah, so going back to managing your HMOs, you said you used to do it all yourself up until very recently, but has that changed?
Yeah, well, I'd rather have, so I get asked all the time of agents like that, come on, let us run your portfolio for you, take some time off, do this, that and the other. But what they don't do is turn out to a service department in the middle of the night if, something's, you get a service off some agents. I've had agents offering to run my portfolio because they know that most of my houses are, little Mary Poppins houses, and they've offered to run them for like 4 or 5%, which actually is pretty reasonable. But I'd rather put that into whatever that would be. I'd rather put that into someone's wages and have that control. For all I think I'm pretty reasonable to work for. I'm a complete control freak because I'm a complete perfectionist. And in that respect, I like to have control of something, and I like to know. Whenever I get a tenant now, one of my frustrations with kind of newbie landlords is that they do, a great job of doing a house up, and yet they don't put the time into getting the exact right tenant. And I think you've had a bit of a dodgy tenant or two, haven't you, since you've started off that? I still get my pants pulled down every now and again. That people can become wankers. It's a case of they're perfectly normal people. Sorry, your mum's watching, isn't she? I just said the W.
Don't worry.
Oh, very much worse on here. So I know what it feels like to. I moved away from the housing benefit crew about 12 years ago, and that's not to diss everyone on housing benefit. It's just that there was a higher propensity for people to try and, pull my pants down on the way out of a property, leave the backyard full of crap, be the kind of person who felt like the world owed them a favour. And I'm a massively moral person, hugely. And when I give someone a beautiful property to live in, I expect to get that property back pretty near to the way we got it without having to go in and, just give it a lick of paint or something like that. Okay, fine. And some people that have left them not particularly brilliant, but have been honest about the way that they've done it. Or, those people that don't pay the last month's rent because they know you're going to take the bond off them, because they know they've got your house like a complete twat. it's those kinds of people, and I've had very, not too much of that over the last few years when I've just been, I just don't take housing benefit people anymore unless they have a very, very good reason.
I guess with the way you're pushing the market though, Paul, and the co-living strategy that you fully pushing your end. What I guess really you've almost not priced a certain type of tenant out potentially, but then I guess you kind of have, because
it's a selective group.
Not to say that people that can afford X amount aren't going to trash your property, because you are certainly going to get people like that. But I guess it's
a lot of people are paying that amount because they want a really nice property, and therefore you'd hope that they'd have a bit of pride in that property as well.
I could probably charge some housing benefit people if they're getting, £85 a week off their housing benefit, whatever, and they've only got to top up by £10 a week to get to the £9,500 a week. Then, actually, I used to charge my housing benefit people sometimes a little bit more, because they'd walk into a fantastic house and go, oh wow, and I'd think, well, actually, the market rent for this is £100. I'm going to charge you 105 or 110. It was just sometimes the attitude of some of the people, and that house is turning up like that with the boyfriend, and I'll be like, all right, how you doing, mate? Yeah, who are you, type of thing. What's the crack? You working? All right, okay. So you're not going to be living here then? Oh, well, yeah, but and it's like, no, mate, that's just fiddling, basically. And, people that are wanting to claim housing benefit and have the boyfriend living with them, or some people would be like, how come you're not working then, mate? Oh, well, my mum died 3 years ago and I've had depression and all that kind of stuff. And okay, I know that I probably sound proper Tory boy and a bit judgmental and all that kind of stuff, but when you're a hardened landlord after 3 decades of the kind of excuses that I'd heard, or after 2 decades of kind of excuses and chasing people for money for the sake of a few quid, but all the kids are walking around in, top clothes. I mean, I walk into some woman's house who ironically had to pay me £18 a week top up, and I was like, fucking gee, look at the size of your telly. How much is that? She's like, only 18 quid a week. I was like, all right, what should I do then? Bet the telly? Actually, she wasn't paying a top up, but she'll pay for a bloody telly from Bright House, And so I just elevated myself above that thing. Look, I've put the effort in with my portfolio. I know plenty of wood chip landlords out there that you can go and rent a house off, and I just set my stall out. It's all right for people who might say, well, that's a bit discriminatory or whatever. It's like, no, hold on a minute. You work from 4 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, doing this kind of shit, and then be expected to turn out in your tipper truck to get rid of a yard full of crap that someone's decided to leave. And some of these people, they know the right. You can't put an attachment of earnings onto people's benefits. I mean, now when we recruit a tenant, I want to see the house that they live in. And if they've got a problem with me turning up at their house to do an inspection, then I'm sorry, mate, you're not for me. And if they live, far away, we say to them, I'll stick us on a video call and show us around your house. And that's the crack. Hello, Marcus, how are you doing?
Hey, Marcus.
I can actually see who he is. Look at him. He looks like one of those monks, doesn't he, that set themselves on fire with his orange top on.
Happy face. Love it.
So what's the competition like in the market then for that level of HMO?
It's getting stronger, I mean, I've got 80 rooms rented across Darlington, and they've not got en suites in. But everything that I'm doing from this point forward is going to have en suites in, or most of it. Boise's done another property I was going to mention before, which is a 2-bed to 5-bed HMO conversion with a dormer on the back under permitted development. And that one is sorry, what was the question again? I've
got another question for you. So you started talking. Well, we started talking about managing your own HMOs, but we didn't quite get to the end point. So do you still manage them, or have you started to outsource them now?
Your question was actually about what's the competition like. So I'm trying to do one and everything now. And managing my own HMOs, yeah. Do you know now why my teachers used to say all my school reports were, Paul is very distracted. Paul distracted children. Paul spends his time looking out of the window. Yeah, managing my own properties because I'm a complete control freak and I don't trust anyone else to do it, to be fair. But there may come a day. Well, actually, my son and daughter are now coming into my business a little bit. My daughter's studying interior design and my son's studying, she's 17. My son's studying real estate and property management.
Oh, nice.
So they're now starting to come into the business. My son took to it like a duck to water, actually, and he's on the tools for me at the moment with being off university. And he's also, me and Paul Smith were mentoring him once a month, and Claire's now helping him out with that. My daughter was a little bit less responsive. I actually stopped their allowance and said, right, look, rather than pay you £35 a week for your bait at college and this, that, and the other, I'm going to pay you £50 a week. £50 to review a book. And I've given them the books to read, and my son took to it really well. I think my daughter was a bit more offended by that, and I think my son's got his little business partner Max. I say little.
I was going to say they're doing really, really well. I've been following them.
I've got him into a single let, or he's got himself into a single let rather for 30 grand. We're just chucking a bit of a grenade into that place, and hopefully that'll maybe value up something like 58, 60 grand when it's done, for not too big a spend. Whereas my daughter felt maybe a little bit kind of not alone, because we're all here for her, but she was a bit more pushing back a little bit on the well, just do me a book review and you get 50 quid. It's as simple as that. You could earn a fortune off me here. But anyway, she's a great lass, and we get on like an absolute house on fire. She's a lovely girl, Rosie. But since Claire's come in, she's got her doing loads of admin stuff that I never thought she would even like doing, and she's come in like a duck to water, just taking into the admin. And funnily enough, I'm going to get onto the serendipity in a bit, but my pal ran yesterday, was a really top interior designer for literally has a customer who's a billionaire, and he's developing this lake house on one of the lakes in the Lake District. And he just rang me out of the blue yesterday. We were chatting on. He said, I just wondered if you wanted to come and see this billionaire's boat house and this house that he's getting built. And do you want to bring Rosie along? And I was like, that doesn't happen without sending it out there. The fact he barely knew that Rosie was anywhere interested in that kind of thing. And for him to just ring up and say that, I was like, yeah, brilliant. What day? We're coming. So yeah, great stuff. Next question.
So in terms of, you've talked about co-living being the main strategy really going forward. Is there any other kind of strategies that you've got on the side, any kind of side hustles that you're doing at the minute?
I'd like to build some more industrial units because they're just boxes that are fairly easy to rent, the smaller units. I'd really like that. Single lets are a bit of a no-no.
Paul, sorry, how small are you talking on those units?
How long are we talking? When I built them?
No, how small?
Oh, I've got units that range from 1,200 square foot up to 3,200 square foot, and they all seem to rent no bother. I've got good long-term tenancies. You don't make very much on them per month, but they're a good steady thing. All I get off my industrial units every year is a tax bill because I'm paying the mortgage down. As quick as possible. I took the mortgage on 15 years. That's all I could get. 2008, when I started to build them, the bank were all over it. Yeah, no problem. I basically got a piece of land, got planning uplift in it, took that to the bank to use as a deposit, and then was building them. And then the whole world collapsed financially. So the term out finance wasn't quite as easy. So I had to take it on a 15-year mortgage. So that's nearly done now. Mm-hmm. So yeah, when they're done, there'll be 50 grand a year going into the pot, which just gets spent on other people's wages anyway. So yeah, I think at some point you have got to stop expanding, and I've put in my notes that I haven't even got onto yet, to lay fallow sometimes for a couple of years, like a farmer, does different crops all the time, and then he'll let the field sit there for a year or so while it sort of, regains itself and rebuilds itself, if you like. But I'd like to do more industrial units, but I did have problems with that build because of the workmanship and the snagging and my perfectionism, and the architect wasn't quite the man he said he was. And I believed them when they said don't bother with the quantity survey, the architects, QS. I just wish I had more representation through the build, because that was massive for me, going from single lets to actually building sort of 7 industrial units, borrowing £500,000 to build industrial units. Then that was a big thing for me at the time. I actually felt like, for the first time, a proper property developer, when you walk into a field and see all the portal frames going up, huge cranes and loads of blokes building walls, and you think, geez, this wouldn't have happened without me. This was me being cheeky, borrowing the money off a fella to buy his own land off him and then getting planning uplift and taking it to the bank and saying, will you lend me £500,000? Not the first time I've asked the money at the bank for £500,000, but there you go. We'll get onto that in a bit as well. Well, I asked them for £1 million actually to start with when I'd got 4 properties. And
it's that big.
well, that's the thing. I used to sit at these Darlington landlords meetings next to these scruffy buggers, like shabby chic, where some people might have the elbows scrubbed off their the holes in the jeans. I mean, these buggers were like that anyway. They just came into fashion briefly not so long ago. But I used to think, you old scruffy buggers, how come you've got 60 properties? Because they started when properties were like £1,000 and £2,000 and £3,000 and stuff like that. I mean, but actually one thing that does sort of instill a bit of fear and hard work into me is that a friend of mine built up a portfolio of about 40 properties. And there were nice properties as well, but he did have a bit of a playboy lifestyle. And he said to me just after the recession kicked in, so when I was building my industrial units and the whole world collapsed, I was like, is this tangent okay, by the way?
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, you're totally.
I'm totally off, but I'm in the powder now.
Go, run, be proud.
Yeah.
So, and this guy said to me, what interest rates you pay now? And the great thing about the world collapsing was that the interest rate, I thought, oh God, have I risked building up my, whatever it was, 45 house portfolio at the time by building these bloody units. Is it going to sink me? And then I had a piece of land that I bought to build a house on when I'd done that, because I thought that was me retired at 40. Didn't happen that way. And the great thing about it is that investors started coming out of the woodwork saying, I had this 150 grand in the bank earning 6%, and now it's off 4%. Now it's earning absolutely zero. Would you like to borrow it for a decent return? And also interest rates coming down and stuff like that was great for my cash flow. But this lad said to me, what interest rates are you paying? I was like, well, everything's like 1%, 0.5% plus base or 1% plus base, stuff like that. And he's like, bollocks. He said, the bank have just fixed me at 6% before everything else. And then they started pulling covenants. I mean, one thing after the recession is that when banks were having to recapitalise, they were pulling covenants on people like, oh, you haven't got your insurance in within 180 days or your accounts in within 180 days of the year end. So we're gonna reprice your mortgage from 1.5% back up to 6% or back up to 5%. It's like, well, hold on, you weren't bothered about that in the past. And but that was banks, and that was the advice my uncle, who was a bit of a property guy, he'd made his fortune in South Africa years and years ago, and I was out for a pint with him when I was about 16 years old, and he said, there's something different about you. He said, you're inquiring and you want to know how stuff works. You're a nosy bugger. And he said, I'm going to give you one piece of advice now. He said, you can take it with you for the rest of your life. And I thought he was going to come out with some kind of colloquialism like I do, in every adversity lies a seed of a greater benefit or whatever. Turnover's the name of the game, profits the score, that kind of thing. And he just went, always remember this, bankers are wankers. And he said, if they were so frigging clever, they'd all be multimillionaires, wouldn't he? He said, they will run your life for you if you let them. And at that point, I realised that the banks were just completely out for themselves. Now, they couldn't do that in this recession. Now, I've built a bigger, wider, brighter, better portfolio since the last recession. And my pal, unfortunately, who wasn't able to scrap the bank over that, they classed his loans as an overdraft, and they pulled the money, and he lost, I think somewhere between 35 and 40 nice properties that would have set him up for the rest of his life. And he spent a lot of money building them up, but unfortunately he did have a bit of a playboy lifestyle, and he had all the Aston Martins on tick and all that kind of stuff, and they just absolutely sank him. I mean, up until this last year, my main mode of transport, well, I bought my missus a decent car a couple of years ago when I sold out my older industrial units that I bought. But apart from that, I drove a van or a tipper truck for the last, and I was quite happy doing that. Always loved cars, I'm well into my cars, but until then, I was always scared to, get anything on Chucky, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm, because I do run quite close, I do sail quite close to the wind sometimes, and I've had my ass on the burner a few times as well. It's not nice, and it broke my heart for me, pal. I feel choked up now thinking about it. Just the fact that someone can click the fingers and that's your portfolio gone from under you. So one part of me wants to stop and pay down debt. The other one part of me wants to use other people's money to do great stuff, so I can keep my money to pay down that debt and also spend a bit on myself for a change,
That's one question kind of leads us on to is, obviously we are in a recession now, and it's probably going to get worse over the next year, couple of years. What do you think will be the kind of key property strategies that will do well through the recession? Do you think there is any?
It's difficult to give advice on this one because everyone is different, and it's not the dog in the fight, it's the fight in the dog, and it depends on where you're at. There's, so many people that I'll speak to them at a networking event, and they might, throw a load of questions at me, and it's like there's so many factors involved with each different person. What have you got behind you? What experience have you got? It depends on who they are and what they are and what they've got and all about that kind of thing. And my strategy is just to kind of keep going. As Winston Churchill said, if you're going through hell, keep going. I was going to do a chat for Tinker, actually. Tinker's going to knack me because he's been going on about me going on his podcast for bloody weeks. And I've been like, I'm too busy, or this, that, and the other. Or I was going to travel down and various other. And I was going to change one of my little slides that I had was, if you're going through Hull, keep going. That's very... So my strategy going forward is different to a lot of other people's strategy going forward, and I could only advise on each and every separate person as to what it is that they should do. But for me, it's a case of keeping going and doing what I'm going to do. Because look, as Darlington's a bit different as well because we had Amazon come to town. So I wrote an article in a magazine about my time in COVID and what had happened and changing my strategy for my essays, but actually then my essays didn't empty. Well, only one of them did because Amazon came to town, and we just bought a bank in. Not all bankers are wankers, by the way. I do have a couple of very good friends who are bankers, and one guy would actually.
You did.
Absolutely brilliant, but most of them are. No, so. We bought a bank in Spennymoor for not very much money at all on what's called have you heard of a completion with delayed consideration? It's like an exchange with delayed completion, but where you actually own the building, but you just owe the person that sold you it a few quid. And I've done a few deals like that without actually knowing that that's what it was bloody called, but there you go. And we bought that near to an Amazon factory. The reason why we've done that is because it's guaranteed. When Amazon came to Darlington in COVID, and I was kind of shoehorning key workers into properties, just before the lockdown deadlines, that worked for me, and I went to 100% occupancy. In fact, I actually turned two of my properties single lets that had come up. One was a supported tenancy, the other one was just a normal single let. And I, kind of went round all my lockups and chucked them full of furniture and went, there you go, there's an essay for Amazon contracts, stuff like that. I mean, that's now come to an end because Amazon's filled, but now all the single lets in Darlington, the prices are coming up because it was like 1,800 people coming to the town, of which probably 800 or 900 of them. I mean, in a small town like Darlow, we're about 120,000 people population, I think.
Yeah.
That was great. So if there's an Amazon open somewhere, go there. Or if and I've found that my HMOs have been really busy as well. Some good people looking for HMOs. It's been good. So it depends on your area. It depends on all those different factors. I mean, what are you guys doing? Are you calming down, or are you going to smash it?
I was just going to mention, I was watching Andy Thomas's live that he was doing in Blue Oak this morning, and he actually made a really good point about trying to kind of recession-proof yourself and what strategy to follow, and actually, property sourcing as a strategy, getting your D2V game on point, being able to negotiate deals, getting in front of vendors and actually honing that skill would be like the surefire way to try and recession-proof yourself. And I thought that was a really good point, actually. But
I think HMOs, though, are a great strategy that, through any sort of adversity, it's such a flexible way of living that there's always going to be people that need houses, need rooms, and you can't get much more flexible than HMOs, can you really? So I think we're just going to crack on, aren't we?
Yeah.
I always try to be the top end of the bread and butter market. People always need, they say in an increasing economy, the small flats go up the most, or flats go up the most, and in a decreasing economy, the flats go down the most. But with demographics, it's like, you know, where's the bottom of the pile? So as the recession maybe takes hold and people come unemployed, they want to save money on their accommodations, so they come to the bottom end of the market. But, you know, whereas I, you know, don't see my wood chip landlords as being competition because they're in a different market. That's what I used to think about HMOs, by the way. It was only when, you know, through that adversity that I ended up with my own HMOs thinking, oh, actually, this isn't too bad. I know HMO landlords in Darlington with, you know, 150, 200 rooms, but, you know, I wouldn't recommend, you know, they're just not that nicer places to live, and they're just kind of, you know, in my opinion, don't really care about as long as they're getting the rent. Whereas, you know, I want to exchange good rent for a good place to live. And, you know, I'm on the group chat for all of my HMOs because, you know, I want to know what's going on. I mean, I would expect my staff to now deal with all of that stuff. I mean, my maintenance guy and Lewis, who's my business manager, they're on the group chats, and I would expect them to deal with stuff, but at least I can get to see what's going on. And we do say to the tenants, actually, you know, if you're just using this as a social jolly, then please start your own group chat, you know, who's nicked me flipping bread, you know, all that kind of stuff. This is and repairs.
Can you go on to this bit?
I was going to do this bit.
Go on then.
So we'll move off on a tangent of our own, really. We're going to talk a bit about mindset, if that's all right, Paul. We've got a few questions on that. So the first question I was going to ask is, what gets you out of bed in the morning?
Keep it clean.
Yeah, I mean, as you probably know, I mean, I'm up at generally 4 every day. But sometimes I'll get up at 1. Sometimes I'll get up at 2. And work through till about 6. I'm kind of like one of these people, you know, you get people that eat at a certain meal time, every meal time, and that's it. Like, I eat when I'm hungry and I sleep when I'm tired. So sometimes I might be tucked in the bed for 10:30 at night, absolutely cream crackered, and then I'll be off to kip, and then I'll be up at 4. Sometimes if I can't sleep, you know, if I just sleep for 2 or 3 hours and I wake up and I don't think, well, I'm not going to waste an hour trying to get back to sleep, or, you know, watching Netflix or whatever, I'll get up and do a bit of graph, because I've always got a massive backlog of stuff that I want to do. And so, you know, I'm more than happy to get up at 1 or 2 in the morning, work through till 6, go back, have an hour on the couch, get back up again. I just sleep when I need to sleep, really. But it would be nice to get into a routine, but I kind of can't see it. I mean, it's really handy when I go on holiday with the lads, if we're boarding and stuff like that, because I can get like 4 hours graft done in the morning and then feel great about, you know, going out boarding, getting on the slopes. And when I used to board from my camper van, that's a great tip. We'll have to have a bit of crack about that. That was just absolute brilliant. That was just absolutely brilliant. Just
do you take your van to the Alps?
Hey, say again?
Do you take your van to the Alps?
I haven't got it anymore, but I went through a phase of thinking I could run my business remotely. You know, that was my first attempt at getting systemized when I was doing it on an old Nokia, like just texting backward and forward. And I think I must have been going through a bit of a lull in the refurbs. I remember having 3 lads on a couple of refurbs at the time, but 3 years running. I took my camper van down to the Alps in the December and then brought it back in the May, and I'd just be like stopping in Courchevel car parks and stuff like that for cheapest chips, you know, just getting like a decent long pass and staying there 3 days on the board, 3 days on the board, 1 day off. And I used to fly back and forward all season, just 2 weeks at home, 10 days back in the Alps, you know, a week back at home, another week in the Alps, and it worked out absolutely great.
I think we need to get the property thing and ride community, joint networking, snowboard, ski trips.
That's deductible to me.
Pardon?
Networking in the Alps.
That's deductible to me. Yeah.
100%. Right, so Paul, what does success look like to you?
Success to me looks like a fully systemized business that I can trust other people to run, that has a dashboard. I mean, the briefing to Claire was for the last 3 business managers that I had before Lewis. Lewis is a brilliant guy that I met through my networking event, who at 23-year-old was running a KFC up in the Metro Centre and doing a great job of it. And he, you know, done a business degree in entrepreneurial studies and this, that, and the other. So he's a very capable young man. His three predecessors were people like IT consultants, IT people running like IT systems in large transport companies. Another guy who ran data centers across London and all this kind of stuff. And I'd just give them John Paul's book and say, From Stress to Success, take that book there and do all your techie stuff and put it into my business, please. That's your brief. Like literally, just that's your Bible. Do that. Thank you very much. And he has another book called John Paul's a friend of mine, and I had good chats with him about all that kind of stuff. And it was kind of embarrassing after the third one. Like, why aren't people actually just doing this for me? So to have people running my business. Lewis was in a business before KFC where everything was, systemized for him. So he's done a great job of taking us to a certain level. It's like, oh, great, I've actually got that. I've got something where that's talking to that and this is talking to that. We were using a system called QuickBooks not so long ago, and we've had this guy called James Grew install like Zero, who's a mega business systemizer as well. And poshest guy in the world, the funniest guy to listen to. He's absolutely brilliant. It's like, I love systems because I'm just lazy. And so he's done some stuff, and then Claire's come in and just kind of piled in. She's got systems and business written through her like Blackpool through a stick of rock. She's just, and she's an absolute hoot. And just to see things happening where she's like, it'll take 6 months, this like, and I was like, oh no, we'll be done in 3. But actually, when you look at the amount of work that you've got to do, so I say to people, look, when you're first starting off in business, it's easier to dig a strip foundation. Get your foundations dug in and build your business off that. Promise me, son, you won't do the things I've done. I think Kenny Rogers was it sang. But if you've got an existing business that isn't systemized, like literally dig out the foundations underneath it and pour concrete in there, get your systems in there, underpin your business, because without it, you just end up becoming like a busy fool, and it's not efficient. And you end up working all the hours, spinning plates, and it's actually really quite simple. Now, you can only get to a certain point with it, though. What Claire's done is she's come in and it's like, I don't know, it's like you can do certain fixie bits to your own car, or your mate down the road can do it, or the guy down the garage can do it. But if you want to you bloody do something like that, you will. I was looking for my note in my Apple Notes before for Claire, and I was like, why can't I find my Claire file? And I realised I'd spelled it CLURR, Claire. But she's So the thing is, but if you want your Formula One car, if you want your car to be tuned, you need to get in a tuner, and she knows about, she's deep into the likes of ClickUp and all of the things that we're looking at, and she looks at how they work with each other and how they can work with each other, and it's a little bit of a skill that she's got there, a lot of the skill, and then bringing Rosie in and getting her done. She's proper like bossy without being bossy, she's just it's great, and I feel absolutely confident. But I'm chipping away at her at the moment because, like, I love to see other people succeed, and I'm saying to her, look, you need to bring out a system, like a blueprint. Like, entrepreneurialism isn't inextricably linked to being good at business. Like, you think about the word entrepreneur, you think businessman, bit of a nutter, goes off on a tangent, thinks with the right brain, all that kind of stuff. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're a good business person. And I'm a little bit more right brain. I'm actually a creator. It's great to know your business and your what's it called, wealth dynamic profile.
Of who you are, what you're good at, what your skill sets are, what you're not good at. I mean, we want to talk about your team and who's behind you. And the first question is, when are you going to stop hogging Claire? For one,
when I'm done with her, and even though she's going to come in one day a month. I've got her on a retainer. And what I'm pushing her to do is to create some kind, because people love information, don't they? People love information and putting things into place. And I'm saying to her, look, because when she first came to me, it was like on a bit of an info JB basis, where I was going to, teach her a bit about property, and she was going to come and systemize this, and we just became friends. And after a while, she's like, do you know what? I think I want to concentrate on I'm really enjoying this. I want to concentrate on my consultancy business. But what I'm saying to her is, look, you don't. I don't think there's such a lot of power in creating a handbook for entrepreneurs to say, right, entrepreneurs, you can actually be a proper businessman. I mean, some people are right brain and left brain, and the entrepreneurs are great at business as well. But some entrepreneurs like me just leave a trail of crap behind them that I've got to go behind me at the end of the day and sweep up. It's a trail of destruction. But she's great, man.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, sorry, I was jumping in there. It's obviously quite clear, like the special relationship that you two have got, like how you've helped each other, I guess, in very unique ways, and obviously she's doing wonders for your back end. Does that sound okay?
She's wonders.
Edit that out.
She's like a property enema.
Back off. So who else is in your team? I know you've mentioned a couple of them, but like the construct, I guess, of your kind of team at the minute.
So I've got my. I'm pointing at his desk there. If he's there, bless him. He's actually on holiday this week. That little bugger. So I've got Luke Blake. He's my business manager. I've got. We've always got some bugger on the guest desk, back and forward. I've got my office manager, who I feel now that we're doing 3 times as much as we were 10 years ago when she first started. She's pretty much overloaded. And then I've got my 3 guys on site. So I've got my maintenance guys, or my refurb guys. I've got 3 guys. My son's actually on the tools at the moment a little bit as well. And then we pull in subbies as and when we need them. I don't really want, my wage bill's big enough with just those kind of 5 or 6. And then you've got your subbies on top and stuff. So I want to stay flexible. I think that the great thing about my portfolio is that if I really needed to, if interest rates started rocketing up or something like that, I could just finish what I've got to get to finish out of cash flow, and then just kind of lay low for a while. And sort of see how it goes. That's the whole thing I've been throughout the portfolio, is just chasing turnover. I said before that turnover is the name of the game, and profit is the score. And it's one of those whereby, but I know that chasing the turnover means kind of more properties. So when I do, if I really needed to, I could get back on the tools myself, run around, hopefully be the best paid maintenance man in Darlow. And just have a minimal member of staff without the spends on the refurbs. Materials and stuff are such a huge cost in a property business when you constantly refurb and get some debt paid down and chill the hell out. I think it'd do me a favour if interest rates did go. But there you go. People have coughed and spluttered about Section 24 over the last few years and all that kind of stuff. But landlords really, for the main, or those landlords that have been in since before kind of 2006, 2007, when the rates were really low, have enjoyed spectacular, like Mark Leck, who's on here, enjoyed spectacularly low rates for a few years. And I mean, Japan had a recession in the 90s. It's still negative interest rates. I can't see rates going north of, whatever. I'm no economist, but if they went above 1 or 2% in the next 10 years, I'd be very, very surprised.
With your team, sorry, I'm jumping in on you. With your team, Paul, you've got a fairly substantial team there behind you. Would you have done it any earlier? Or I guess my question is, at what point in your business did you do it? And do you wish you'd done it earlier?
Did I do what?
Employ staff.
Oh God.
So a lot of successful businessmen and women say, you hear it a lot, don't you? I wish that I'd employed staff earlier and started to leverage earlier and outsource.
Yeah, I got to 35 properties before I went full time in property, and that was just me, and that was nights and weekends, which is kind of in a way just kind of daft. I actually had, when I left the mob, I had a business plan written, and the Royal British Legion were going to sub me $5,000, and I was going to set up in property management. And in a way, I kind of wish I'd done that, but then I joined my father. My dad was kind of whittling on at me about how he had this sports and leisure wear business and how I should join that. And then And I did actually, and I kind of wished I hadn't in a way, because it would have been nice to have seen what I would have done without that. But it did give me a decent wage to be able to then just borrow a shitload more money to build up a portfolio. So, I mean, one of my little tricks was to walk around the banks basically and just didn't give up. And, you know, I was asking them for £1 million with sort of 4 properties, but I'd got decent equity in them. And one bank manager just offered me £500,000 based on my existing, I think it was I had 170 grand's worth of equity in my property. So he said, yeah, I'll lend you £500,000. And I spent that in a very short space of time. Got 21 properties, and then he gave me another £250,000, and and then I just ended up remortgaging everything away with buy-to-let mortgages. So that's how I built it, using, and I suppose that might have been to do with lying fallow for a little bit after I'd maybe left the mob, and there was a bit of a house price hike, and that allowed me, you know, because I'd amassed those properties. So I say to people, like, literally build that launch pad, even if it be single lets, you know, because I mean, my sort of curve comes along like this, you know, single let, single let, single let, single let, single let. And then, you know, when property prices came up a bit, and then it sort of started to go like that, turnover profit-wise, when I started getting into the HMO. But for people to do this, like a couple of buy-to-lets, you know, to get that track record, and then start on the HMOs and stuff like that, and start making more money, because single lets, they are a little bit folly to me, to be fair. I've just done one with Lewis there to get him into the swing of things, and we did a refill, bought a house for 30 grand, probably ended up spending 20 grand on it in 3 months of my lad's time, and it's not right to do that. You know, we could have done a block of 6 flats in the time that we've done that. So, you know, there you go. Still making mistakes 30 years on.
Yeah.
But it's a good little house.
Probably final question, do you think? We've gone over our 60 minutes. You think?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so I obviously want to focus on that little banner that's behind you there, and chat about networking for a bit. So I know you're quite into your networking. Tell us about how, you know, you've kind of used networking in your career to sort of progress your business, and you know, how important it is for you.
Right. Networking has been so important to me. I mean, I didn't do it for, you know, all those years, and I really wish that I had. I mean, literally, I did a chat because so many people turned up to my first event. We actually started, Boise and I started the property thing because we were going up to pin events and stuff like that, and I'd given them the kiss of death, basically. The first one that I went to, I was kind of, you know, putting some guys right that were obviously kind of people that had been there for a while, and they were talking a little bit of rubbish, and I was like, yeah, but have you thought about this and thought about that? And well, if you do that, you don't actually have to tell the bank, and, you know, trust deeds and exchanges and all this sort of stuff. And my mate said in the car on the way back, like, well, you should take one of those events. I was like, don't be daft. And then that event closed down. That was the PPN, Newcastle. And we're like, oh, great. And then we started going to the pin-up at Newcastle, and then that shut down. And then so we decided to start our own. And I've just seen the absolute power in it. You know, I call the people around me like my property Pokemon. You know, whichever challenge that I've got, I can get my Pokemon out of the bag, and I choose you. And you build up this great network of people around you. That the power is just absolutely amazing, because it's people that want to help people. I can't buy it when I can never buy it when people say to me, I really hate networking events. I hate getting up and saying anything about myself. I mean, a networking event is the only place I think you can walk up to a group of complete strangers and say, hi, how are you doing, smiling, and they all kind of welcome you with open arms. You know, it's like, you know, a brotherhood and a sisterhood, and people are just here to help each other out, and I'm kind of all about that. The second event I did, like, so many people turned up thinking it was this dude with a load of gaffs, let's find out how he's done it. We were expecting maybe 10 or 12 people, and I think there's about 30 people turned up, and I thought, shit, you know, what am I going to say? And the next one that we did, I did a big old chat on mindset, and old Smithy was in there sat, and he sat next to my missus. I brought my missus along to make up the numbers, and I think my son and daughter as well, and he was like, I need to speak to your lad, like, I need to speak to him, And the only time we could actually meet was because he had his Ben and what have you. So, and I was like, look, I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. If you want to come to my house late on the night, we'll kip over, we'll get up at stupid o'clock in the morning. And through that friendship and knowing him, and him starting Blue Oak and just various, I've just got to know so many people. So I call it like the social sign-ups. Off one seed here, so many things grow off that. you know, and that was just me just wanting to help a lad who got himself, you know, like he didn't get on with his mentor, and he was a bit lost with this, and he was a bit too ambitious for this and not ambitious enough for that. And I just sort of squared him away for, you know, 3 or 4 hours we were yabbering on for, and just to get to know some of the people that he's got to know. I mean, through, you know, various networking events, I've got to know Claire, you know, through Jim Kane, just being friendly with Jim Kane. And I got to know Jim Kane because I did a chat for my networking event on properties, 15 people talking about refurbs. They absolutely loved it. And Jim had seen a video of me talking about brickwork. The next thing I'm chatting to Jim, and then I'm getting to know Claire. And it's like these social synapses that grow up and then they just branch off like this, and they're all firing between each other. It's just such a powerful thing. So I say to people, look, if you just smile, ask questions, and use these 3 words that are fantastic to get you out of any sort of conversational situation. What's your story? You know, what's your story? It's so powerful. Like, and get people chatting. It's like when I say to people, like, if you know an entrepreneur that's kind of close to your family, or even not close to your family, or just some shop you've been going in all your life and the guy works there, or for whatever reason, you approach like an entrepreneurial or a business person. They don't look at you like you've got 2 heads when you say, look, I'm looking at getting into business. Like, can I just chat to you about it? People love, especially entrepreneurial people, love to talk about themselves. So approach those. It's so powerful, the information you can get completely for free, because they know if you're the type of person that, you know, I always say shy bands get out. If you're a shy bands get out kind of person, that, you know, they're going to be able to ask you for something in the future. I've had it, you know, whatever time I put into the people, just being paid back by, you know, great friendships. I mean, I say to people, look, you know, a skinny guy is a bodybuilder. If he's acting like a bodybuilder, eating like a bodybuilder, and training like a bodybuilder, and he eventually will become a bodybuilder. So if you're a property person, but with no property, that's kind of fine. You just get yourself there and say, I'm a property investor that just hasn't got any properties yet. You know, you don't have to say, oh, you know, I'm deal sourcing, I'm this, you know, I'm business like, I'm educating myself, and I want to info JV with other people, or I want to JV with other people. Boise and I always do a mandatory circle of death, whereby we go around everyone, and everyone in the room has to say 20 seconds about themselves, who they're looking at talking to. Then everyone knows who everyone else is, and they're thinking, right, yeah, okay, sign up. And if someone says the so-and-so from Hartlepool, we'll say, oh, we'll speak to him over there, you know, because he's from there, or oh, she's from there, that's the crack, you know. So it's just so utterly powerful, and I can't wait to get started again with all that.
Do you think like your career in the Navy kind of helped you with that? Like, you know, I always think kind of, you know, 20 years or whatever in the military, in the Navy, especially where you are going all around the country and you meet different people and there's different networks of people, and you do make lifelong friends, and you can have very, very strong bonds with people. Yeah. Do you think that helped you when you left? Because for me, you know, I've not left yet. I'm kind of, you know, about a year out from that point, but I almost feel like it'll be stepping from one big network and spider web of family, you know, and relationships to another one in the property world. And you know, even for us, it's only been a year really in the network. We've met so many amazing people, you know, the same as what you mentioned, and it is very, very powerful, like you say. But yeah, do you think like that kind of going from the mob across the city?
Like brethren, really. I mean, people are pack animals, you know, and we like to, you know, birds of a feather flock together, and it's all about the scratching backs, you know. It's all about like the hunting party, and it gives me great pleasure to recommend people to other people, or have other people recommend it to me. It's almost like you know, like I say, mentorship is like a fractionally distilled information. You're getting the already filtered essence of what you need to know, and it's the same with networking. You're getting that experience of loads of people in a room that are willing to help you. It's just so absolutely powerful. And it helps me certainly with investors. If I say, you know, I'm part of a networking event that helps young landlords, because I know how tough it's been for me over the years. That's great. And if you're part of a networking event and like an active member of a networking event, you know, often, you know, it kind of, I don't know, it shows that you're a bit prepared and you're willing to put yourself out there and ask the questions. Yeah.
So we want to talk, before we move on to the last little section, want to talk about your new business a little bit more. So the Verve, which is about to you're in pre-launch stage at the minute. That's right. You've got 7 different projects going on. Do you want to just tell everyone a little bit more about that? And yeah, just kind of a bit more about the future, I guess.
Actually, before we move on to that, I just want to tell you about a young lady called Natalie Ellis, and it's my Shy Burns Get Nothing, Shy Burns Get Now thing. And she just messaged me one day off a post she'd seen that I'd written. I think it was buy to let or not the buy to let. And just to cut a long story short, because I know we're going over, she messaged me saying, "Oh, I'd love your post. I'd really like you to mentor me and my mum." And I was like, "Oh, put your brass away." Ash Anderson, that's how I got to know him. Same thing. Would you mentor me, mate? So I'm like, "I'll put your brass away. Come up to me at an event at the weekend that I'm having for people walking around." Anyway, with Natalie, she's like, "Well, we've got. I'm big into my mindset. I'm big into my Joe Dispenza kind of meditations. I've been around the world, doing all this kind of stuff, and I've got I've sent 3 direct to vendor letters, and I've got 3 effectively £1 million deals." I cut a long story short. She only had one back potential, and come on the Verve, URV. There you go.
That's got to be.
So, and the next thing I'm like, "Oh, put your brass away. If you want, we've got a guest desk here. Come up to Darlow. You can teach me a lot about your Joe Dispenza stuff, and I'll help you with your option and this, that, and the other." Anyway, she took an option on this piece of land for 10 grand, which was like again a 700 grand piece of land that she got for effectively 10 grand option, and she's looking at selling that for 1.05 within the next few weeks. She's only just completed, so she's like, "I'm going to come up and take you and the solicitor out for some bit because you've helped me out for so much." But just shows what leverage and mindset and meditation, believing in yourself, setting your goals. Here's my goals in a little bag that I keep. Every day you've just got to keep plugging away with that. So between her and her mum, they'll coin 300,000 quid off that, which will give them absolute power. And all she wants to do is get in camper van and go around the Alps. So working together, exactly. So what was the last question?
We were just talking about your new business, really. So what do we expect to see from you coming up?
So what I'm looking at doing is moving out from the epicenter, which is in Darlington, and I've got at the moment my projects are thus, and there's a bit more than 7. Right, where have they gone? Oh, where's my numbers file? Is that it? Yeah. So I've got in no particular order. Can I have some sort of countdown music? Top of the pops. I've got 4 microservice apartment to develop, which already had planning permission. It was a property that was 100 grand a few years ago. Tried to buy it. The guy who bought it instead of me ended up spending 35 grand on the building, and then he ran out of brass and sold it to me for 80 grand with all that money spent on it not so long ago. So that's to turn into 4 service apartments, which I've had a meeting with my architect today about, and he's done some layouts for it. They're absolutely going to be fantastic. We looked at turning it into an HMO, but the stair core that's already been built would have been too much of a chew structurally to change. I've got a house that I've owned for a while, which is a 3-bed to 8-bed HMO conversion. I wish we were on a Zoom because I'd like to show you these horrible bollock properties that I've bought, but we're going to transform them into contemporary powerhouses of awesomeness. I've got, do you want to know the spends or anything like that, or just a quick, run through?
Maybe give us one like that you particularly like, and go through some of the numbers if you got them there.
So, well, I'll tell you the next 2 because they're quite interesting. Still, the Development is just a horrible big old box of a building. I call it the block. It's just a big, horrible, ugly building. It cost us 110 grand. It will be about 300 grand to build another story on it. That will be 3 stories. Ground floor will be co-working with some offices. Probably move my own business into there. A little bit of a storage so I can have a nice lockup for all my fancy items that are going into these places. That'll probably develop at about, I don't know, they don't develop at that much more than you've spent and it's cost you. I might make an uplift of 150 grand on that, which isn't a massive amount of money, but it'll pull in 90 grand a year at least. So 100,000 quid a year for 450 grand spend. That's not bad. Another one, my poshest one that I've got is a big, beautiful building up at Barnard Castle, which I think I did a post on Rad not so long ago. Cheesy lions outside, which are going to be Vivian Westwooded up.
How will people find that post? Where did you put that? It's a really good post if people want to go and have a look.
I put that on Ride, I think.
Was that on Ride? So they type in, you type in 4 million at the top of the group, and what was the castle called?
Barney Castle.
Yeah.
So that was the one where I had 3 big investors lined up to do 3 big projects at the start of COVID, and like each one of them pulled out right straight when it happened, and I was like, oh dear. But I'm not a panicker. You know, I've been hit in the face with a shovel a few times before, as you can tell, and it doesn't bother me. You just sort of get up and do something different, you know. So I ended up having another investor come out of nowhere just as I was about to, go into a different strategy, and we got it bought. So that's it looks like an 800, 900 grand building, even, for a beer barn. And Castle's a fantastic place. It was on for 4. I've got it for 400. It'll cost about 500 grand to do. We're going to put 6 service departments in there. It's currently a restaurant with one big flat above it and a nice big extension out the back, huge car park. So we're going to extend over the car park, maybe put some holiday pods in there. We're going to look at co-working, co-living on the ground floor for 12 people and 6 SA with a basement micro SA. And again, that'll value at about 1.3 when it's done, which is only an uplift of maybe, I say only, it's quite a big one for up here, maybe 250, 300 grand. But it's not that I'm in it for. I'm in it for the income. And that will pull in maybe 180 grand a year. So I haven't mentioned my business partner, Adam, actually, who joined me when I built my industrial units. And we've done sort of 22 properties since then. And 3 or 4 of these properties are mine and Adam's properties that we've had for a while that we're now going to do. I'm doing Chris Garvey is a lad with him and his dad Paul. I'm doing one called Glen Park.
Lost you there.
Turning that into either 11-bed HMO, 11-bed co-living with service departments above, or a 17-bed co-living. So that's 140 grand spend. 140 grand purchase price, maybe a couple of hundred grand spend. That'll probably value up at 550, but it'll bring in 90k a year. So I'm not really interested in the GDV, apart from the fact that I'd like to term out 65 or 70% of it to get any investment money back out, any construction finance or investor money has to come back out. We've got my little one that's one of the. See, the funny thing is, I've got 135 tenancies that I've built up over 30 years, but that's now allowed me to maybe bring on another 109, because 4 just rolled off the production line, 109 tenancies on over the next sort of 2.5 years. So that just goes to show you that curve, when you start using investor finance, leveraging yourself properly. 2-bed to 5-bed HMO under permitted development. Most of these are full planning applications, by the way, although there is things out there like PD and prior approval that means you can bypass that system a bit. I've got an 8-bedder in Hartlepool that I'm doing. I have a piece of land that I was going to build the house on when I built my industrial units. That owes me a bit too much money because I devalued it by taking a perfectly good bungalow and smashing my digger and telehandler through it and got rid of that. And that sat there for 12 years while I've been busy with Adam, building a portfolio and doing my own HMOs. So that I'd like to build granny flats on there to sort of maximise the value. That's the thing, you see, it's that inevitable adversity thing again. You think, shit, that piece of land cost me 300 grand, it's got nothing on it, no planning permission. What can I do with it? Oh, do you know what's going to absolutely maximise it? Well, granny flats or bungalows, fantastic. I just finished a 4-bedder in Redcar with the lad Davy Tones that I did a JV with on that. We've got the Spennymoor Bank, which will be up to 20-bed HMO. We're going to do 4 cluster flats in that. So we're developing 4 flats under with planning, but then as we move through the process, we actually accidentally on purpose turn them into 5- and 6-bed HMOs under PD. I've got a 12-bed, sort of 4- or 5-bed HMO to take the extension down and build it back on Vane Terrace with my business partner Adam. That'll be it cost us 130 grand. It'll probably cost 200 odd grand to do, value up at 500, but bring in 50 a year. Then I've got a big one up by the train station, which unfortunately the council are buying back on CPO, which is a compulsory purchase order. So Adam and I actually sat there waiting in the wings for them to develop the train station and that might go next door, only to be told that the council now want to buy that and knock it down and create a plaza there. So we might get a decent bit of an uplift on it, but probably not a massive. That's okay. We've got a barrister on side scrapping our case on that at the moment. So, yeah, quite a bit of stuff to do there.
just incredible, isn't it? When you
Yeah.
just run through them like that, and you know that it's inspiring, really. Like the amount of stuff you've got going on, and yeah.
When we said you were spinning a zillion plates, like we were
Even more.
kind of joking.
No, it's brilliant.
The plates are starting to perpetually move a little bit, and I'm compartmentalising my time a bit better now, where I'm spending literally Monday morning is Arden Street, Monday afternoon is Bowman Street, Tuesday morning Granger Street, Tuesday afternoon Grange Road, Hartley. So each one's moving along. It's like if you don't do that, it is literally like my life has been herding cats for 3 decades, and now it's a case of I'm a bit of a sheepdog all of a sudden.
We're losing you a little bit there. Hopefully everyone else can hear you fine. You're a bit kind of jumpy for us.
Yeah, just lost a little bit. So I think you're back now. I think just before you got a question?
No, I was just saying we'll probably move on to the final round now.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to, lastly, just before we go on, we're going to go on to the quick fire round to finish. But just before that, I guess really, I don't know if I probably already know the answer to this, but can you see yourself slowing down in the future? What is, what I know it sounds cliche and a bit corny, but what is the dream? What are you doing this for?
I'd like to. So most of my journey, the networking, everything is about validation. So leaving school as the fit kid or the distracted kid, it validates me to, for example, I mean, you are an example of where we had a bit of an hour backward and forward one day, messaging about finance and stuff like that. And you very kindly said in a live, that had helped you out and you felt inspired, and maybe made you look at finance a little bit different by, I think I was telling the story about remortgaging my granny and stuff like that. And, that validates me to be able to, to advise a couple of ladies who are Royal Naval officers who a few years ago I would have been saluting. I used to see you guys some kind of, mum. And I tried to become a naval officer through the AIB. I'd done really well as a TIF and tried to get in as an officer, and through the AIB, and they were just like, nah, you're not clever enough, so nice try, and fair play and good luck. You'll be a warrant officer in no time, but we ain't letting you in the wardroom. So, it validates my existence to help other people. And I've made, I'm quite, in a way, I'm kind of erratic, but I'm also quite thorough. I've written tons and tons and tons of notes here to share with everyone, but I haven't actually gone through them. So I think I'll have to put them in a blog or something so it doesn't go to waste. There's so much more to say, it's mad.
Again, yeah.
The stuff I've messed up in my time. On my mentoring for my last mentoring call this last week, the mentor's like, right, who wants to talk about what? And I'm like, I want to know your 10 biggest balls ups. And he's like, brilliant. So we went like a top of the pops of my mentor's biggest balls ups. And you learn so much by that. It's absolutely brilliant. It's hilarious. You can have a laugh about it. It's about dusting yourself off and getting back up and doing the biz. So yeah, what was the question?
Are you going to slow down?
Am I going to slow down? I don't know. My missus thinks absolutely never, but I'd like to keep on being the bumfuck Dave, but doing different things like snowboarding, traveling around the world. I want to do, the Machu Picchu Trail. I want to do, get up Kilimanjaro. I did Mount Kenya a good few years ago. And I love my hiking, getting outdoors, and I feel as if I've just completely delayed gratification is my absolute middle name, and I need to sort that out. So I'm 49 years old now. I'm unfit. I want to get on a tip where I'm systemized. I've got the time to do my fitness. I've got the time to do all this kind of stuff. And then, it is what it is. Will I slow down? I'd like to be Lord Fauntleroy sat in my ivory tower with my smoking jacket on, and a couple of spaniels just kind of looking at property deals and, passing them on to my team to blitz and just, networking with like-minded individuals.
Yeah,
that's a nice dream.
Cool.
Well, Paul, we know there's a million and one other things that you could talk about, and we would love to get you back on, and we could even do the 10 balls ups. That'd be a good one to get on. But yeah, honestly,
I've written down here. I've got 10 sayings, 10 balls ups, 10 things that frustrate me, 10 networking points, 10 bits about me that I haven't actually said yet. Yeah, there's tons of stuff there.
And that's the thing. Like when you said, you're erratic, but you're very thorough, and you are very thorough, because even that just proves that the level
Attention
of
to detail,
preparation, before you coming onto something like this is, it's definitely to be admired. And we thank you very much for coming on tonight, and just even just for an hour and a half, like the level of value that you give people. And you are the person within the community that constantly gives value. You're not doing it for any other reason, but from the fact that you genuinely want to help people. And I think that's really unique, and a very, very special quality to have. And I think why a lot of people, everyone that you come into contact with has got so much admiration and respect for you.
I really appreciate that. I've actually been really feeling a bit guilty about being quite quiet on social media lately, especially in my own group. I feel like but to be fair, it is a distraction, because whenever I post about something, I always try, I've got the world's longest posts, and of course off that I get a lot of comments, and then I like to comment back, and then I get people messaging me, and then the next thing I've spent half my day kind of helping those other people. It's like I wish I could do that, but with that I'd also do the amount of herding cats that I've got to do on the other end. But I put my head above the parapet yesterday. I tried to do another post on Ride community this morning. I sent to Claire, like, it just won't upload, and it wouldn't load in CPT either. And that's a walk around of my Glen Park job there. It's one of the 17-bed HMOs, living developments with Chris Garvey. So I'll be batting that on later on and that's why I'm worried about Wi-Fi. But I really appreciate your comments. Thank you very much. And you two are an absolute beacon as well. You've just gone from, just getting into it. You've done all the right stuff. You've done all your lives and all of that, giving to the community. You are, a different version of me. You're there for everyone as well, and a beacon for other people to look up to.
Thank you.
Fair play. And if there's ever anything I can do for you, I'm always here as well. Just good to bounce ideas off if ever you need to chew my ear off about anything.
Yeah, well, we might even be buying a HMO very soon, so we might get you to look at the plans, have a little skeg your eye over it.
Love a set of floor plans. I think you sent me floor plans one time, didn't I?
Yeah, I think we have. Yeah, that was a little while ago now. But yeah. Who's quick fire around, you or me? You. Right, I knew you were going to do that. Okay, right. Are you ready for the quick fire?
Cats or dogs?
Shush. Okay, right. Ready? Ready?
Yeah.
Steady.
On, ready.
North or south?
North.
HMO or co-living?
Co-live.
Rent to rent or buy and hold?
Buy and hold.
Obviously. Your money or other people's money?
OPM.
That's what you put. Football or rugby?
Rugby.
Mountains or beach?
Mountains.
Cash or mortgage?
Cash.
Sunset or sunrise?
Who or Ferraris?
Sunsets or sunrise?
I thought you said something or Ferraris. Oh, sunrise.
Vodka or gin?
Gin.
Superman or Batman?
Batman.
Who do you admire the most? One word. Quicker. Quick fire.
Good Gordon.
Quick fire. We'll come back to it. Few colour. Favourite colour?
Can't read your own writing.
Favourite colour? Well, historically blue, but I've increased my palette lately.
Some pastels.
What shade?
Patterns or block? Are you into interior design?
Patterns or block?
Yeah.
Patterns or block?
Patterns or block?
Quick fire round, isn't it?
Do what I say.
If you could be any animal, what would it be and why? And I'm coming back to the first question.
A leopard.
Why?
Stealthy and awesome.
Who do you admire most?
Who do I admire most? I just absolutely can't think, and it's going to be one of those things that as soon as I put it off, I go, oh, them.
Yeah, not I can't believe you didn't say it was me.
Oh, God. I'll tell you who I admire. I admired a fella called Commander Swan, who became Captain Swan. When I was on Sultan, I was HMS Sultan's leading artificer, because I've just grabbed any position of responsibility I possibly could to again validate my existence. I'm never going to fail anything again, kind of thing. And I ended up having tea and sticky buns every couple of weeks with the captain of the establishment, and he used to water ski off the back of his Type 42 destroyer. So I
heard this.
Yes.
Navy legend.
I admire that dude. Brilliant.
Awesome.
Yeah, so Andy's saying now, great stuff. I think there needs to be part 2, 3, and 4 to this interview. Yeah, totally.
I think there's enough notes to go with that. So yeah, let's do it.
I feel like we haven't even what's the word?
Scratch the surface.
Scratch the iceberg.
Scratch the surface.
Please.
Those mix your phrases.
I've got all these notes to share with you all. Yeah.
Next time.
File them and we'll come back to them.
Yeah.
Right, Paul.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
No, go on. I normally end the show.
Do you want me to end it? No,
Yeah.
it's been an absolute blast. Like the knowledge you've shared with us tonight, we've been hanging off every word. Obviously, HMOs is a big kind of topic of interest for us, so we're really interested to hear all about that. But I'm sure you've added so much value as well to the other people that have been listening, even if HMOs isn't their strategy. Really keen to see where you go with the Verve VURV.
Yep.
Got it. Yeah, really excited to see how you get on with that. Good luck. And yeah, let's catch up again and go through the rest of your notes. 10 top things.
No problem at all. Anytime. I'd love to have a chat with you about HMOs, like fractionally distilled information. So if ever you want to chat about that, just give me a shout. 100%.
100%. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone that was on tonight. We had a really good steady stream of people on tonight, actually. So I think
what did we peak at?
I think 18, which actually for live is pretty good. Actually, in fact, I think that's the most popular so far. So some good promo, obviously beforehand. Yeah. So thank you. Yeah, thank you. Echo everything Steph said already, and it's a real pleasure to know you, Paul. And we're just really, really happy to kind of be in the same network as you actually, and be able to pick up the phone to you, and we feel very lucky and blessed by that. So
I've got tons of people like you. I class you as friends. I've got tons of people like you guys that I actually class as friends, and we've never actually met, but I'm quite familiar with each other. That's the power of networking. It's absolutely brilliant. I've got so many people like you. Paul Davidson and Helen and people like that. All these people all over the place. I'm like, but I mean, I've been in the same room as Paul, but he's like, we've never even met, mate. We've never even met, mate. And it's like, oh shit, no, we haven't, have we? So yeah,
incredible, very, very powerful stuff.
Brilliant to know.
Post-COVID, we'll have to meet up. Maybe even a mountain networking at some point in the future.
Sound of the pound.
100%.
What's that?
Yeah. So on that note, thank you everyone that's tuned in this evening. We'll get this up on YouTube as well, Paul, and then we'll get it out on all the main pages as well, so everyone can see it who wasn't able to see it tonight, or whoever's not in the group.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. What are we on Tuesday? Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and enjoy the rest of your week. Remember, whatever you do, enjoy the ride. See you later, guys. Take care.
See you later on.
Bye.